Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and today spawning southeast corner map playing in blue we've got Anotand playing as the Rus, and his opponent in the northwest playing in red we've got Zertorn playing as the Jeanne faction. Welcome everyone to Dry Arabia. It's going to be the battle of the knights, hopefully. Two fantastic civilizations, both get access to feudal age knights of course. With Anotand looking to challenge the deer camp. Now you can actually animation cancel, so they're going to be going right at it, contesting these deer camps, and I think we're kind of half split there roughly. Anotand walking away with a decent amount of gold, actually. 210 in the bank, so should be able to afford early wheelbarrow. Now, in terms of strategy talk, actually, there's kind of interesting dynamics between these two civilizations. Of course, the Rus very strong in their economy. Going to be able to afford early eco upgrades because of the bounty, and a second town centre is a really common play for the Rus. So that could be something that dictates the terms of this engagement, whether Jeanne looks to try and match that maybe, or whether they even go for a second town centre in the first place. It remains to be seen. In fact, I don't think I've actually seen this matchup all that often. I'm pretty excited by it because, of course, you're going to see a lot of cavalry, so it means a lot of action most likely. Either way, with the hunting cabin now built, going to be getting a decent amount of gold from that, and does have a second scout on the field now. Anotand getting the early wheelbarrow, committing to it, feels safe and secure, feels like he should be able to get the gold for the next age. Well, he's pretty much already there, to be fair. Looking good for the Rus nice and early. I hope you guys have been having a great morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're on the world, enjoying Age of Empires 4 at the moment. I've casted a lot of games recently, and it's kind of fun to see how the New Sultan's Ascent DLC civilizations have been settling in with all the vanilla ones. And of course, with EGC TV's Elite Classic tournament over, we've had some great games on that one, that's for sure. Today we've got Jeanne d'Arc versus the Rus. I think in many ways this matchup, it's really about what the Rus do, and I feel like the Jeanne has to be kind of adaptive to it. A couple of options in terms of placements of a second town set if it does go for one. Going to go for the Kremlin first, building up with good 5 villages. And wheelbarrow should be coming in soon. It's going to be the School of Cavalry, no surprises there. Bear in mind though, Jeanne can get units out quite quickly. Obviously with the French Royal Knight, it's pretty fast, and so that could pack a punch nice and early if they can try and deny a second town centre placement or just harass a little bit. Going to go for the wolf at the end. Ooh, wolf heading back away, and 2 scouts here. Maybe Anotand should be able to get this one. In fact, there's 2 wolves. We're definitely going to try and contest this. Bit of gold trickling in for... Ooh, does get the last hit. Does get the bounty then. 25 of it. One more wolf. I think maybe Zerton just backs away, really, because... unless he gets this one, sneakily cheeks it. Does he get it? No, he won't be able to. With 2 scouts, it's a bit tricky to deny that. Building the School of Cavalry with Jeanne and an extra villager. Now, Jeanne does get a builder's bonus, 33% I believe, so that's a pretty nifty. The Kremlin is almost there, actually. To the next stage. Now, I guess in this downtime, I'd like to say a very big thank you for everyone supporting the channel, whether it be a Twitch or YouTube, because absolute legends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's actually going to stone. Actually, bit of a change of plan. So I'm going to get the mining camp and decides actually wants to try something a bit different. It's just not going to be a second town centre, or at least if it is, it's going to be delayed. Curious, actually. Like, in terms of the second town centre placement, this could be a nice spot at the back. Like, it's a bit difficult for the knight to get there quick enough, although, to be fair, the timing of it would mean the knight would do some damage. So it would have meant the Rus would have to get barracks, and that would delay a second town centre to get a spearman to try and stop the knight harassing villagers. Either way, villagers actually going north to get the boar and the deer. And that's going to be just with a normal hunting cabin and a wooden fortress, I suspect, because there's no there's not enough stone. Well, there's no stone in the bank for a second town centre, and that knight is going to be across the field soon. In fact, well, it's not training just yet, but I'm sure it will be coming in relatively soon. The 2 weak villagers, rather, being brought back home to save them and make sure they don't die a painful death, as a knight is likely to pop out relatively soon. Wheelbarrow coming in for Jeanne as well. We commonly see this actually with Jeanne getting early wheelbarrow. Definitely been a resurgence in that type of build. For a long time we had wheelbarrow being quite common at the beginning of Age of Empires 4 when it first released, and then it kind of fell out of fashion a little bit. It's coming back in though. The survival techniques coming in for the Rus, understandably. Going to be getting plenty of food quite quickly now. With the abundance of food in this area, going to be having a lot of food coming in quickly, and I suspect yeah, there's going to be a lot of villagers going on to gold. In fact, 5 of them should mean that there's going to be posturing towards the castle age. Question is whether Anotand looks to get a wooden fortress here as well. They're pretty heavy costing in terms of wood, so it'd be tricky to afford it immediately. But certainly wooden fortress to protect that area could be quite key, considering that, you know, there's going to be a knight across the field relatively soon. It is just still cooking, still training. It won't be too long before that pops out. In fact, there it is. There's the second one, actually. This is the first one. Scouts pushing away with... I mean, ultimately the village had to back away. Without wooden fortress, can't stay on gold for too long. What if he drops a stable of his own? Does he go for barracks for a bit more of a defensive type of play? It's tricky because he does definitely need to secure gold here, Anotand. Might be able to get a mining camp back here. Like, it's relatively close to the wooden fortress, but bear in mind, you can only get 8 slots inside there, so... Has to be careful. Maybe he's going for a second town center behind this after all, thinking better of it. I mean, he's got to be careful. The Kremlin is there, but villagers... They're still a little bit exposed, right? Takes a bit of time to get to the Kremlin, and in fact, goes back to the town center. I suspect that... Oh, he's just 1 stone away from... Aristets, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it is just 1 stone. That's so rough. That's kind of annoying, right? Because, look, it actually, yeah, I mean, to be fair, clicking on it, it does suggest he wouldn't have enough, and going to get a stable and then have to go out there. With Jeanne moving across the map, going to put a bit of pressure. We have seen, actually, Jeanne look to get some outposts. That could be an option. Either way, looking to get some palisade walls in the north area and secure that location. The knights have other ideas. Villagers have to garrison inside. It's causing a bit of idle time. Jeanne backing away. She's not the strongest at this level, so it does need to make sure she disengages in that. There is that stable. Knight queued up for Anotand. Good few knights building up for Jeanne, and well, Zerton's continuing to make them, so definitely looking to get a mass of them together. He's going to add in a barrack, so it's going to be knights, spearmen here for the Rus. Up against just knights for now, for Jeanne. Actually goes for an outpost on gold as well, so possibly thinking for a fast castle. I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, going 2 town centers as Jeanne in this particular matchup looks a bit tricky. Considering the Rus can just do it better. Double barracks coming in for the Rus. But in terms of castle age timing, got to say the food income looking solid because of the boar, right? It's such a fast source of food. Trying to get the palisade walls up, but the movement there, the mobility for those knights, just making it very difficult. Goes for a double stable, double barracks play now. I mean, I think generally, it looks like both players are probably just going to be looking to play a mass feudal age, to be fair. I think the villagers on gold really just to be able to fund the knight production. So it's going to be an exciting one. Scout barely alive, 4 HP, 5 HP. Zerton just keeping an eye on the deer camp in the south, just to make sure Anotand's not being too greedy with that. All villagers, you might lose 1 or 2 actually. It just about survives with them. I think it lost 1 in total. There was 8 there, I believe. More importantly, causing some idle time. Aristets is definitely going to be a welcome addition to that wooden fortress for sure. Just stop the knights just coming in for free. I might just try and pounce on that. No, villagers. He's on guard here. Now he's going to commit to the wooden fortress on the gold vein, understandably so. Like, you definitely want to keep gold in your bank because you want to get those knights producing. The question is, you know, with the Bloomery in play for Zerton, for the short term at least, should be able to take better trades with melee versus melee units. Take some time for Anotand to get the techs. He's going to get the blacksmith now, but we'll need some time to actually research Bloomery and whatnot. Sending another villager to repair or build up the palisades. It'll take some time. Maybe Zerton might pounce on that once again, but grouping up together quite a lot of knights. He's going to offer a barracks himself. Double barracks, in fact. Yeah, both players playing relatively similar styles, and what could be kind of interesting is when Jeanne does start to get the consecration, as we can see now, these knights are going to be cheaper, so that's quite a nifty bonus, I've got to say. Having the back deer camp, very nice, back berries. But the best thing for the Rus is they've been able to take the boar, such a fast source of food. It's really starting to pay dividends in terms of military numbers, a lot of spearmen involved. Now, without any ranged units for Zerton, I would like to see the spearmen actually protect the villagers in gold. Like, there should be no reason why Zerton should keep this area idled at all, actually. Because those knights could never die of it with this number of spearmen. One little factor to bear in mind as well, the chivalry tech that can come in for Jeanne, healing up those knights when they do become weak. It's not something that the Rus get available access to. We need to wait for monasteries and warrior monks to be able to heal these units up. Continuing to trickle in quite a few few spearmen. Might just see a big melee mosh pit at some point. With steeled arrow coming in for the Rus. Yeah, it's going to go for an archer range. Add in some archers just to focus fire on the spearmen, ideally. Going to come down to a lot of micro, I think, at this point. Yeah, certainly calm before the storm, I suspect we're having here. Not too much action, not too much diving in. But by the time the economy starts rocking and rolling, these guys will start to engage. Looks like he's looking to just test the waters. But again, the spearman actually moving north, actually. Yeah, I mean, he's not... I'm curious to see why he's not keeping the spearman here. It'd mean that, you know, he can't really dive in with those knights if they're there. Now with the board taken, now going for the deer camp. Now, of course, the consecration cheaper knights is somewhat counteracted by the fact you get some passive resources for the Rus. Now with the barracks and a double stable being consecrated as well. Look at the military numbers. It's pretty hefty there for Anotand. A couple of them are archers, so the archers, the main damage output for them is really going to have to be on the spearmen. If we can get the spearmen numbers down, Anotand should be in a good spot if he looks to try and push out. I was trying to get some palisade walls just to keep these guys safe and secure. Knights going in towards the wooden fortress. Decides not to really commit to that, understandably so. And that day camp's going to be running out. We are getting to sort of the 50-minute mark where you kind of have to start thinking about farming transition. It might not need to be reliant on it too quickly in the immediate future, because you do have some berries that you can take advantage of here for Jeanne, and same with the Rus. Does actually have the back deer camp as well, but give it another 5-10 minutes and yeah, both of those will need to start thinking about farms. They don't come cheaply. Looks like Jeanne itching towards that castle age. Same could be said for the Anotand though. It's got similar sort of back. Oh, that could be a bad initial engagement for Anotand. Does get a bit of a hit on the charge. So good initial engagement there for Zertorn. Spearman getting involved, so Zertorn has to back away, of course. Can't afford to take any risks or make any mistakes there for sure. If he gets caught, it'd be problematic. Does get a couple of hits on them though with the spearman. Scout spots the spearman being up in the north. Going to go for the guild hall. No real surprises there, especially with the way the game's turning out. Doesn't feel like he needs to commit to the Royal Institute. The guild hall offering a lot of value with passive generation or banking of resources, and then you cash it in, of course. Now the high trade house is probably a likely choice, but maybe if he thinks he's going to be up ahead to the car stage, maybe trying to get the warrior monks with the monastery. Maybe thinking the Abbey of Trinity perhaps, but it's not a landmark we see commonly. So I'd be surprised to see anything other than the Abbey, sorry, the high trade house. It looks like he's getting in position for that right now, possibly here, the wood line. Probably the best place. Yeah, there we go, between two wood lines. Should be a decent amount of gold coming in there, and deer carcasses as well. Zertorn gets to the castle stage a little bit quicker, queues up the veterancy of the knights, then there is a bit of a window where maybe he can do some damage and engage, but I think with the standing army that the Rus have, I think the Rus should be fine. I don't think it's going to be taking a big engagement anytime soon, or at least... Oh, that is a big engagement actually. It takes about 2 knights, I think, there. Maybe even 3. That's a big pick-off. Spearman caught up to them somehow. And actually, the Rus, incidentally, not committing to the knight line all that much at this point. Mostly infantry. Mostly archer spearmen. Now, Jeanne still level 2. Understandably so, because there haven't really been that much in terms of engagements, and I think Anotand's playing that quite nicely, because I mean ultimately with Jeanne it's one of these weird mechanics where you don't really want to engage unless you're going to kill her and actually take a really good fight, and it's always difficult with the amount of units that they pop out with Jeanne. It's hard to really achieve like a really decisive amount of units that would just win the fight outright. Now with the military advantage, can go onto the boar, quite nice to get the extra injection of food for Jeanne. Take the wooden fortress. Kind of concerned for Anotand being pushed off of gold there, but does have this one on the back secured, so he's moving out there. Going onto the wood line. Could get a couple of village kills here. Does. Exactly that. So it looks like Anotand going to be playing sort of the more defensive approach, slowly pushing out with the Spearman Archer line of units. Iron Undermesh is now in. Guildhall has company done actually, toggle to food. Kind of gold that Zertorn needs at the moment, but obviously he's playing the long game, thinking long term. One knight dies within the stealth forest. Interesting going for man at arms. I like the play actually, because of course he's up against archer spearmen. Man at arms definitely the good counterplay to that. Maybe even some mangonels. That could be important. Something that Roos have to consider and think about. Definitely playing within his own skin here, Anotand, playing for the late game. Perhaps looking to try and leverage the, the powerhouse that is the Roos in the late game. But now it's coming down to the fact that Jeanne's getting Sacred Sites. Already has one in the bag. And possibly looking to get some of the relics as well. In fact, does he have a monastery? He does. There we go. I don't think we see a monastery yet for the Roos. Oh, there it is at the back. Now, relic position is going to be important. There's one certainly safe and secure for the Roos behind the palisades. There's one just outside the palisades for Jeanne, so probably one apiece in that regard, but the other two that I can see immediately on the screen are in the middle of the map. One already picked up by Jeanne. Snipes another knight. Nice pickoffs, I gotta say. Jeanne definitely getting the rub of the green in terms of picking off some knights. Slowly but surely, Anotand's starting to push out now. I think adding in a couple more crossbows could be quite important, especially with the man-at-arm numbers, but that means it's going to be predominantly infantry, or wholly infantry really. For the Roos, leaves them a little bit exposed to possible siege play. I wonder if Anotand might try and prep something for that. Or possibly take the engagement. Knights kind of looking to charge in, but decide to back away, of course, with that number of spearmen. Will be problematic. Now, ultimately, with this kind of engagement, actually, Anotand comes out on top, right? Because in terms of ranged attack, he's getting some good damage out here. May not kill a unit or two, but he's taking some HP at least. Continuing the chase. So every time that Zertorn doesn't engage, he's getting a couple of arrows in the butt, and he does have to back away. Jeanne is now at level 3. Makes it a little bit more relevant to the fight. Around the back, knight just being pesky. Has to send something there actually. There's not much in the way of dealing with that. But backing right into the base, the spearmen charging on through, and the tank could get some good value here. 81 military versus 42. That's the powerhouse of the Roos economy, of course. The Kremlin giving additional 20% wood dropped off on the lumber camp. Not to forget, early eco upgrades. It's been really nice for the Roos. Third relic possibly being brought in for Jeanne. The Roos already picked up the one at home, the safe one, really. That just leaves one more ready to be contested. The Roos will be quite keen on getting that, I suspect. It feels like Anotand does have a lot of units, could just push his way through. And the knight's just circling around, looking to get value if he's got out of position. Now, gold positions have to be thought about, actually. The two gold veins, the prominent ones in the middle map, got 8,000 gold in them, something that both players need to try and think about securing at some point. Warrior Monk engages, needs to back away. The knight might just get a surround on him. Just manages to get out of there in time. Does torch down the outpost, but loses a couple of spearmen doing so. Oh, knights might get caught here. They do get caught for Jeanne. That's painful. Now, could be worse. I mean, he should be able to notice this. Maybe Zertorn is not reacting to it. In fact, he's actually going to take the fight against the spearmen. Curious. He feels like he can micro back the weak knights and let them heal up, but I don't know. He's just going to lose them to spearmen. It's a curious decision that to engage that. Either way, moving in the middle of the map. Looking to go towards that sacred site. Did lose a couple of knights. I think we should be happy with that, right? Ultimately, losing gold units is never fun, especially if you're not trading gold units for gold units, and that's exactly what happened. You know, spearmen, relatively expendable. Taking the engagement, Jeanne getting involved. Now, will she use a Holy Wrath ability? Probably should use the Divine Restoration first. Spearman versus Man-at-Arms, there was only going to be one winner in that. It feels like not enough crossbows here for the Roos. It needs a crossbows to deal with the heavily armoured units in the form of Man-at-Arms. Man-at-Arms should win this fight quite convincingly, but Spearmen are going to try and meet shield a little bit to allow crossbows that are there to get some value, and if the Man-at-Arms numbers do dwindle, that's going to be an issue. Jeanne barely alive. She does survive though, so gaining valuable XP from this fight. Overall, I think defenders advantage working out here for Russo is just pumping out. Look at the production buildings, he's really pumping. You see the sea of blue units heading across the map, and all of a sudden that meat shield for Jeanne has now dwindled. Arbitrary on the back line for her, but numbers aren't looking great. Sends a knight around the back. Oh, Anotand might need to spot that because that's a lot of villagers dying otherwise. Only a handful of man-at-arms survive for Jeanne, and knight's still trickling through around the back. Of course, that's the trouble of not being fully walled up, and Anotand will lose a couple of villagers. Looks like Jeanne going to get the 4th relic as well. Could be having gold out of his ears with the 2 sacred sites involved as well. It's looking pretty decent for Jeanne because, of course, don't forget, not only does he have the relics involved and the sacred sites, zertons managed to consecrate a lot of the buildings. So cheaper units. Good economy. It's looking pretty decent for the Jeanne after Arc faction in this match so far, I think. Anotand's probably going to have to be a bit careful about the next couple of engagements. I think like if he takes a couple more bad engagements, it could be problematic for him. Just make sure that he takes good fights from here on out. The concern long term is that the Arbitrary had an incredibly strong late game unit for the Jeanne d'Arc faction, and especially when you factor in upgrades like Gambesons. It's got quite a mass of them already. They're going to get an outpost in the middle to secure up things up a little bit. Looking to extend the palisade walls. There are 2 gold veins here to be secured. It's going to be a key bit of detail if we can get those walls up. Move around the south with a couple of infantry units. Try another outpost. The outpost shouldn't go up in the end. But that might give a signal for Zertorn to push on forward, knowing that the army is kind of split up a little bit. Question is whether he does commit that much or not. Does torch down the outpost before it's deleted as well. So he loses a little bit of wood. Nothing to write home about at this stage of the game, of course, but every little bit helps. Speaking of which, a lot of villages on stones. It looks like Zertorn thinking about getting some static defences in the form of a keep or 2, I would have thought. The Rus doing the same. Added in multiple town centres now, so looking to boom away with villagers. Added in an extra 2 as well. So 3 town centres in total. That's going to be great for the villager boom. And it's coming at a decent timing. Like, I mean, you're kind of heading to a situation where you're kind of reaching that maximum population, but there's still room to boom away with villagers. It's not as if the village boom is, you know, kind of out the window at the moment. Sacred Site victory is approaching. Has activated the timer here, Zertorn. That's a lot of man-at-arms. There's a bit more to be taken care of for sure. Has had a real problem getting these outposts up, Zertorn. Almost been caught in time. A couple of man-at-arms being trickled in the economy. Oh, kind of dancing around the town centre. That can't be good. A little bit lost, it seems. Going for the Imperial Age. A red palace in the middle. Going to protect one of the 8,000 gold veins, of course. It's a very good strategic location. Needs to keep control of the gold situation. Could be a big power spike once we get there as well. We just have to consider that because, of course, they committed quite heavily with the 3 town centres now. So a bit of time before the Imperial Age could possibly be coming in for the Rus. It's quite behind, of course. We need to idle production to be able to reach the Imperial Age, and Red Palace in a good spot. Will buy a lot of time. The concerning thing is the economy for Zertorn is looking absolutely bonkers. Now, Red Palace is going to offer a lot in the way of upgrades and going to get a keep here as well. It could be a bit of a dicey situation for Anotand. Trying to get the army in position, should be able to. In fact, actually, it's going to be a bit more of a worse situation for Zertorn. Has to cancel the keep. The army just a little bit too far away for Jeanne to contest this. A couple of man-at-arms poking at the villagers. Committing to it heavily, though, needs this, actually, to be fair. Definitely needs that gold. Definitely try and get a town centre because he does have the emplacements, the Arbalest emplacement with the Red Palace involved. But I don't think that it will go up anytime soon, of course, with the keep now being built. It's going to be building it on the other side of the gold vein. I like this a lot because it's not necessarily going to look to try and secure the gold for himself, but more importantly, at least he's going to deny it from his opponent, which is you know, half the battle, I think. Oblitria going to be tanking, fighting underneath the keep though, and they do use the Pivis ability. Going to be chipping away at that. And gold being collected on the front lines as well. Jeanne might need to back away. She's looking a little bit weak there. Crossbows were chasing after. Oh, they were focusing on Jeanne, right? And it meant that weren't firing off at the Arbitraria that were there. And he looks like he's quite happy just to tank a little bit. And there's a decent number of spearmen, but won't deny the town centre going up. And so the village garrison inside. And that's going to halt the gold income for Anotand, which is a big deal. Does have a mangonel, but kind of caught out of position. Jeanne snipes it really quickly. That's unfortunate for the Rus. That's for sure. Now, what's kind of concerning for Anotand is that it feels like in many ways Anotand is hard stuck in the castle age. And the reason why I say that is because if he starts producing units, he might start to be overrun a little bit from the Jeanne d'Arc faction, getting those blacksmith upgrades, getting the 3rd ranged armor upgrade, angled surfaces, can be great to be able to dive underneath keeps and town centers and also take extra fire from these crossbows from the Rus, pushing the villages away from gold, which is a big deal, and gold is what Anotand really needs at this point. In fact, I don't think he's got any other access to gold. Like, this is it, really. Is this one and this forward one, these two, and the positioning of it is kind of awkward. Going around the back of the man towns and a couple arbitrary. I mean, these units are dead, but again, it's just forcing Anotand to stay at home, and it calls the idle time on the village gathers. That's out on the villagers gathering the gold, which is huge. Sassy, thank you for the raid. Appreciate it. Welcome on in, everyone. Hope you guys are doing fantastically well. Thank you. Sounds I hope you had a good stream. I was lurking a little bit earlier. Seeing your games versus recon. Fun to watch. Thank you once again. But certainly Anotand has to find a way to get to the Imperial Age, right? It's not something that he can just continue like this, because of course with the upgrades coming in for Jeanne, the army is going to be starting to become a little bit overwhelming. Especially with elite army tactics and crossbow stirrups. Jeanne using the Holy Wrath ability on the siege, 2 trebuchets, trying to focus on the town centre to secure the gold vein again, but finding it difficult to do so. How's it going, Jigglypuff? Hope you're doing well, buddy. It's looking a bit dicey for Anotand. Does that the village lead, which we're kind of expected obviously with the 3 town centres. It will take some time for that economy to get rocking and rolling, but I think give it another 10-15 minutes. Actually, he might be in a good spot to be able to pump out, but he needs to make sure he survives. The big deal is, bear in mind the Rus do get the passive gold generation, which is definitely going to be helpful from the hunting cabins and also the high trade house. I think without that, in many ways, the Rus could have just been dead, but passive gold generation really helping. And now using the Kremlin gremlins to push back Zertorn somewhat, to buy some more time. Almost a population capacity though, 200 population. And to be fair, with the army numbers, despite being an age behind, could possibly take some good trades, especially with the militia on the front line and kind of throwaway units at the point. Oh, that's going to be a massive pick-off. Going to go right for the cannon. That's huge. That's a very expensive unit to lose so quickly. Hasn't lost it yet, but most likely will. Going to use the militia to poke and prod. Does lose it and gets one shot off from the keep at least. Outpost might go down. Might actually torch down the town center. I don't think the militia have that much life left in them. No, they're about to die quickly from natural causes. Down they go. Oh god, Jeanne got a lot of XP from that. God, that's not ideal. That's actually kind of bad, right? Because the militia are going to die either way, and Jeanne managed to get some XP from that. But slowly but surely, getting towards that Imperial Age. Just needs a little bit more food. There's that mass farming transition that you expect to see at this stage of the game for both players. There's the high armory, going to be influencing the siege engines and going to give them some extra technologies, but also make the siege workshops a little bit cheaper to produce some siege. 20% discount. Not too shabby. I'm surprised to see the sacred site in the north not being capped by Zertorn actually. Well, it was earlier, but obviously decapped. But Jeanne is out and about. It's something that she could go for. Now, the concern for Anotand, he's got a strong hold that he needs to make sure he just doesn't die in the next 10-15 minutes, because of course when you tech up, you've spent a lot of resources to do so. It could be go time for Zertorn. Got upgrades coming on in, but recognizing that Anotand has just spent a lot of resources on that tech up, it could be a time to push, and it looks like he's moving forward now. Mostly arbitrary though, no siege, so could do some damage to units, but unlikely to do sort of serious infrastructural damage, which is kind of really what you want in a big push. But 2 mangonels could be in a good spot for Rus to be able to defend this location, especially if more pop out. Just the springald, really. There it is. There's engagement. Oh, arbitrary walking right into it. Not reacting quick enough, Zertorn. I think the Rus will be okay with this. Focusing on Jeanne, but Jeanne dodges both the mangonel shots. That's unfortunate. Mangonel shots kind of wasted there in regard. Does use the Divine Restoration, but that's a good another mangonel shot on those arbitrary numbers. Pretty low in HP. Horseman trying to dive on top of that. Now, another couple of mangonel shots could be devastating, but the cannon coming in play for Jeanne to snipe them out, and both mangonels do get sniped in the end, but does get another shot off just in time. I feel like the mangonels have done a decent amount of work. Could have possibly done a bit better, but he's held on for now. But Jeanne now up to level 4. This is where things become really dicey for the Rus. They could try and snipe out the siege, but does have to back away. Pretty low on health. Might get sniped in the end. Actually, just about backs away. Springle's going to be helpful at dealing with that, but she moves out of the range. Anotand with a good eco lead. Over time, that will really pay dividends. A couple of Streltsy units have played out now. They're expensive, but when you do mass them up, boy oh boy, is that going to be difficult for the Arbaletiers and Zertorn to deal with. Anotand, he's holding. It's exactly what he needed to do. Sacred Side victory approaching. Did go for the north one and possibly could be a win condition. I feel like the next push coming in from the Rus could be a devastating one. A question in chat from Mola. Do Springles do bonus damage against Jeanne because of siege? Yeah, unless anything's changed, but yeah, they do. That's actually quite a nice way to deal with Jeanne, actually. Streltsy, that's a good number of Streltsy in a really quick succession. Trying to get the keep in the front line. Villagers, they're going to be okay. They will take it. They'll get it up, but might lose a couple to the range attack from the Arbaletier, but Jeanne's still alive. Geez, she just doesn't die. 56 HP on that. Unit still remaining. Villagers get the keep up in the end, and Arbaletier are going to be sacrificed. But this is where it becomes really scary, right? The armed composition for the Rus. Streltsy and Siege, with a bit of meat shield in front of them, is an incredibly difficult army to counter. And Zertorn, very far behind on population, right? Anotand adding in the extra 2 town centers, which I think, Zertorn is aware of. It stayed in 1 town center for a while. Or this town center, to be fair, is on 2 town centers. It's going for the gold, having taken that keep down. But Anotand has been able to take some of the gold back in his main base. That's going to be running out soon. Red Palace protecting a gold vein, which has about 3,000 left. So gold is going to become a situation for both players. Keeping the right side just to make sure that the Rus stay at home a little bit. Guildhall has been switched over to gold. 2,000 in the Guildhall at the moment. Great patch of farms. Looks like Zerton's switching into Elite Horsemen to try and get some raids in. Looking to decap the Sacred Site in the north. There's no way that Zerton really keeps that for now. He's getting a bit more stone, so it could potentially afford a keep before too long. Question is, where does he place it? Arbaletier being sent north. Jeanne looking to kind of contest that Sacred Site, actually. Might be able to keep it alive. Split off the army. Anotand heading forward with a couple of spearmen. I think Arbaletier should be able to deal with this. And keep the Sacred Site timer ticking. Adding some more barracks back at home. But a couple of horsemen just forcing all the Streltsy back. Anotand keeping the army back home for now. But gold reserves starting to run out a little bit for Anotand. Once that goes away, Anotand will need to make a move for the middle. Still a decent amount of gold in this vein. Pretty much untouched, actually. I think now for the first time in a long time, there is a bit of a raid for Anotand, focusing on the villagers on the food. And the food income for Anotand is looking kind of crazy, right? 3,000 food per minute. Horsemen might try and do something about that. Adds in a bombard here, Anotand, starting to escalate the unit numbers quite significantly. Unit numbers have somewhat thinned out, but lost spearmen mostly. Looks like kind of keeping the premium units back at home. This is pretty big though. Might not get all that many villager kills, but it's really more about idling the economy, and that's a big idling. Holy moly, has to deal with that for sure. Fortunately, being able to sneak through those horsemen. Bombard, focusing on Jeanne. Mangonel deploys. 2 cannons though for Jeanne. Should be able to do some significant damage. Horseman diving on the arbaletier, around on the back. Horseman still getting good value. Actually, this is getting a lot more value than I expected it would. No spearman on hand to deal with this just yet. He's pushing forward anotand on the front line. Streltsy in the stealth forest. Slowly but surely he's pushing further ahead. But two cannons might have something to say about that. Takes out one mangonel, takes out a springald. It's absolutely huge. Takes out the other mangonel with the horseman. Diving on in with the bombard as well. Might get it in the end. It should just about to be able to get it. Does it? Yeah, it does get it in the end. Massive. And the arbaletier can focus on the Streltsy. Divine Restoration comes out with jeanne. Streltsy will rip through the arbaletier numbers, just not enough in the end. Around the back, again, some more raiding. Forcing the Ruse to commit unit numbers at the back. Coming around the back with the horsemen to try and get on top of the Streltsy. Will thin out the numbers, especially with the Holy Wrath ability, really thinning the numbers down. Massive engagement coming from the south of the horsemen. Anotand's miniature numbers still looking very healthy, and bear in mind with the economy behind this, the Rus will be able to reproduce that army pretty quickly. Now jeanne has been able to keep the sacred sites alive. 5 minutes on the timer. Anotand is in a tricky spot actually, because we've got the red palace on this sacred site in the south. Is a bit difficult to get towards, considering the keep in front of it. It's really the sacred site in the north that's kind of exposed. There is a keep there for zertorn to kind of work with. Instead, it looks like Anotand's going for the base rather than the sacred site. It's going to torch through the palisades and then break his way through. Should be able to get jeanne. I think jeanne definitely goes down. There it is. Spearman acting as a bit of a meat shield. Streltsy behind them. Kind of curious to see the horseman trying to peel away and get some raiding, causing some spearmen to have to back away. And this is a good push. I mean, even with this number of arbaletier, the spearman still managing to push on in. Holy Wrath comes out, does a lot of damage, and we'll clear that up. Anotand finding it difficult to really cause significant damage. Coming with more horsemen, raiding action happening. It really comes down to the fact that the walls haven't been completed. Just to narrow the angle, like there's quite a big entry point down the middle. Tries to get two bombards versus the cannon. Does snipe out cannon, which is massive, and allows the bombards to maybe now focus on the red palace. It's probably the harder of the three sacred sites to take. Horseman again going around the back line. Zertorn's been doing this all game. Streltsy going to be protected by the spearman numbers, which are pretty healthy. Stops the horseman from diving on in, but the arbaletier with the range attack, focusing on the spearman for now. And quite likely to focus on the Streltsy. Does use Holy Wrath there. jeanne backs away for now. Retreats to the keep. Arbaletier are going to be surrounded. Might lose the cannon behind. There's all mangonel coming out, but not so sure if they can deploy on the Streltsy or not. Horseman might dive on top of that before too long, and this is actually looking a bit dicey for Zertorn. Miniature numbers for Anotand looking scary. Let's have a couple of spearmen protecting, so the horseman raid is over for now at least. This is starting to become a bit of a death ball of army units. He's lost a lot of villagers, Anotand, but he's at full population capacity, which is the big thing. Going to take out the keep in the north. 3 minutes on that sacred site timer. jeanne is heading that position just to keep it active. He's sending a couple of horsemen around the back. It's now Anotand's turn to raid. But Anotand, I think he's going to make a move for this northern sacred site. Definitely the right way to do it. Needs to decamp that before too long. Only 3 minutes left. Royal Bloodlines coming on in. Mangonels might deploy. They do deploy. Gets a decent shot off, but doesn't take too much HP off the spearman. And the sacred site is now being neutralized. jeanne is there. Horseman going to poke and prod with the spearman too. And it feels like Zertorn can't hold that position. That's actually devastating because there's only a couple of minutes left, and the question is whether jeanne can win the fight just straight up without the win condition of a sacred site. Spearman going around the back, looking to raid. Miniature numbers not looking too hot here for Zertorn, mostly horsemen as well. There's plenty of spearmen here for Anotand to defend from those. He's bracing himself against that. Mangonels might deploy for jeanne. Could take out a lot of the spearmen, but will it be quick enough? Will the horseman numbers survive? I don't think so. They're getting absolutely shredded by the horsemen. By the spearmen, rather. And also the Streltsy in behind. 2 bombards working hard. But yeah, he's losing everything. Anotand neutralizing the sacred site. Still active, actually. But about to be taken down by 2 spearmen. He's raiding around the back with spearmen and horsemen. This is not looking too great. I mean, going to lose the siege. The push coming in for Anotand is starting to gain momentum. So much food coming on in, and this is going to be looking to be a tight hold. He has to somehow hold this situation, Zertorn. Not so sure if he's got enough, though. Going to keep at the back, very defensive. He needs to. All of a sudden, Anotand is starting to siege everything down. And he's got access to gold again, which is massive. This is coming at the perfect time. Deactivates the sacred site. He's now moving on forward. Oh, mangonel deploys on the militia. The Kremlin Gremlins haven't been drafted in. 2 mangonels, in fact. And yeah, that keep just as well that it came out for Zertorn. Does offer him some measure of security. Jeanne fighting on the front lines. Has managed to mass up the army once again, Zertorn, with a decent amount of food and gold in the bank. He's pushed it away, at least for now. Still a bit of gold trickling in. Does still now have another 4,000 gold vein to be taken if he wishes to. The guild hall sitting at 7,000 gold. I mean, this is a good push for Anotand, but like resources wise, I don't think Zertorn's in any sort of problems. Horseman going down in the south. I did add a second town centre in the end, by the way, so did manage to scale that economy with a lot of farms around it. Especially with the Red Palace, the arbalest emplacement, it's going to offer a lot of protection. Trying to get some palisade walls around that sacred site. Didn't quite manage it in the end, although the spearmen might just protect them. Villages on gold against the horsemen. Diving on in, led by Jeanne. Oh, wait, she's not focusing on the... she's going to use the Holy Wrath ability in the back off and then try to snipe a bombard or two if she can. Mangonel's deploying for Zertorn. Does lose one. Does get another shot off though, but doesn't really take the fight optimally there with the mangonels. Does lose both. Arbaletier about to deploy. This is Strelzy versus Arbaletier at this point. Jeanne getting involved with the Holy Wrath ability once again. But I think with the production in such close proximity for Anotand, he should win this fight. I think this Arbaletier can't really retreat. Horseman diving on in. Yeah, that's going to be a massive cleanup. Zertorn maybe they're extending a little bit there. He's raiding around the back. The town centres will be protecting. And yeah, Arbaletier mass is now down and out. Oh, Jeanne getting involved in the villages on gold. There's nothing here to protect. That's actually a really smart play. Peeling off one unit. Of course, Anotand was busy with the fight in the middle, but does now get back into that position. So didn't lose all that much in the end. With plenty of resources in the bank, Zertorn... I mean, this could go on for a long time, guys. Strap yourselves in. I don't think this one's ending anytime soon. It doesn't feel like it. Now, at this point, you have to think about trade. Like, with gold expiring on the map, but trade is in a terrible position for both players. Like, the markets are very close to home. So that'll be pretty awkward. Still trickling in some horsemen here and there. Trying to force the Rus back at home as much as possible. Horsemen, they're going around the back for Anotand. Be struggling to keep them alive. They're running underneath the keep and then the town centre with the arbalest emplacement because the Red Palace, of course, offers a lot of protection. Don't forget 4 relics in play for Jeanne. Captured them early and paying dividends. Oh, these villages on gold. Anotand, he's losing a lot. Holy moly. He's not reacting. I mean, he's got one horseman. It's not going to be enough, of course. Holy Wrath on the villagers. They die a very painful death. Yikes. And the problem for Anotand is really gold, right? Because he gets a bit of a trickle in from the hunting cabins and the high trade house, which is getting him 239 gold per minute. But when you factor in Jeanne has got 4 relics, 2 sacred sites, and also the guild hall, they can always be cashed in. Oh, God, 8,000, 9,000 gold yet to be cashed in. Despite Anotand being a bit further ahead in terms of map positioning, oh, okay, 4 mangonels. That can be devastating to deal with. There's only 1 cannon out there for Jeanne. Actually, there's a couple of springles, 4 to be fair. This could come down to a big siege fight. I mean, mangonel's getting good value. Horseman diving on in, but spearmen there to brace with Strelzy in behind. Fighting in the stealth forest. A lot of the siege engines still alive there for Anotand. Doing great work. 3 mangonels remain. Going up against the springles. Still 2 springles remaining for Jeanne d'Arc faction, but slowly starting to be overrun a little bit. There is a bombard there for Anotand. Does use the Divine Restoration. Jeanne's still alive, but for how long? Because this push is looking good for Anotand. Now, despite the bank of resources that Zertorn has, and the ability to push in the button for the Guild Hall for gold, It just feels like the army composition is just looking really good for the Rus. Streltsy, Siege. It's a really tough combination. Now adding in Man-at-Arms as a bit more of a meat shield. That's a force to be reckoned with. It does feel difficult to be able to deal with that. That's a lot of Springalds. Definitely could try and counter the Siege. Don't forget the Siege is a little bit cheaper for the Rus as well. Jeanne riding on in. Manages to back away. A lot of Siege is going down now for Anotand. Loses the mangonels. And there's still 2 bombards, but the number of Springalds, those bombards won't last for long. Horsemen. There's a nice addition with the mobility. Now with the lack of arbaletier, it does allow the man-at-arms to be teched into for the Rus, but I wouldn't be surprised if zertorn just continues to make the arbaletier. He's got plenty of food and gold in the bank, of course. Again, man-at-arms with this Streltsy in behind. This could be a good fight for the Rus. He's got the premium units after all, but Holy Wrath doing work for sure. Springalds on the back, sieging down, or taking down the siege that the Rus are trying to get onto the field. But look at the man-at-arms. They're definitely tanking. Just not enough arbaletier to deal with them just yet. Holy Wrath comes up on top of them. Streltsy pushing on forward. There's a lot of siege, but not enough in terms of defensive units. I mean, it's down to 26 military. This could be devastating. Anotand at 182 population. It's got less villages, but does allow more population for military. And I think Man-at-Arms might be turning this fight in a big way. There's just not enough arbaletier mass. Anotand with the big brain, he took out the arbaletier mass and then teched into the Man-at-Arms, making it really difficult now for zertorn to push this back or hold. Anotand up to 96 military. This could be go time. Trying to go for the northern gold. They recognizing the importance of this gold, and there's still a lot of gold left in there. But trying to get the keep up. It feels like zertorn, oh, he deletes it because of the army there. Villagers can't get up in time, and despite Anotand going to build the castle a little bit later than his opponent, he will get his one up, just virtue of the army being there. Zertorn might lose a lot of villagers on the retreat, not looking ideal at all. And access to the gold once again for Anotand will give him a bit more of a strength in this push that's about to come. He's heading right on in and still chasing those villagers. Now this does mean a lot more for Anotand than it does for zertorn, right? Because gold can be brought in. 10,000 in the bank on the guild hall. But yeah, this is definitely a key location. Zertorn wasn't able to deny it from Anotand, and that's going to give him at least another big push or two. Man-at-Arms with the Streltsy for the Rus. Such a powerful combination. Arbaletier mostly there for Jeanne, but a couple of horsemen sprinkled on in should be working pretty well for them. And yeah, I think just the sheer numbers, right? It's just the sheer numbers. Despite having the counter unit, Arbaletier versus Man-at-Arms. The Man-at-Arms there for Anotand is going to chew through all of this. With the Streltsy behind, this is not looking good for Anotand, for zertorn rather. Anotand's looking great. Springalds can be taken down. Only a couple will remain. Holy Wrath trying to stop the flow of the Man-at-Arms moving on forward, but they don't mind. They're still moving on ahead. The brave lads backing away though. The mangonel pushing this back. Anotand not committing to it just yet. I think arbaletier mummers are starting to build up a little bit to a scary amount. It might need to switch away from Man-at-Arms once again, Anotand, and save that gold for something else. Around the back. Again, still a couple of raiding units. Anotand's lost a lot of villagers in this game. With plenty of food to replace them with if he wishes to. Again, still contesting this gold. This is massive to lose this position. Anotand backing away for now. But look at the stone income for zertorn. Holy smokes. Still mining more stone as well, and I mean, if you can shore up this sacred site once again, maybe sacred site victory could be on the cards once again. Continues the raid around the back. But yeah, certainly the gold is an issue. Despite Rus getting some passive gold generation, it's just not enough. Not at this stage of the game. It's incredible how early little fights and wins to get those relics early on can just really help you in the later stages of the game. The relic income for gold has been fantastic for zertorn. It's meant that it hasn't really had to rely on the guild hall at all, in fact. At least not in terms of gold. What's kind of concerning as well for Anotand is wood, right? He's really struggling for wood. This keeping a really nice spot in the end because there's There's a lot of neutral wood that Zerton's secured because of it. Yeah, anotand, he's struggling on wood. Having to go quite far north. So it looks like this northern area of the map is a key one, both for wood and gold. Oh, mangonels deploy. That's a lot of mangonels. Manatams are tanky, but if against that number of mangonels, I don't think they'll work. Streltsy in good numbers at the back. Oh, Manus are going to go around the back actually and maybe get on top of the mangonels. We'll do that. Mangonels, yeah, massive shot on the Streltsy. That's absolutely huge. Devastating shots. They definitely got some value before taken down. And he continues to do so. Still 2 mangonels alive. Arbalistro focusing on Manatam. Still 2 mangonels alive. That's massive. Jeanne leading the line. That's a big fight that Zerton won in a big way. He's going to get his keep of his own as well and take down the keep that Anotand has in that goal position. This is not looking great for Anotand. He's losing a lot of military in this fight. He lost his mass of Manatams. Still a good number of Streltsy remaining, but they're not what they once used to be. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Anotand, he's run out of steam. He's run out of ideas. He's run out of gold. And Zerton takes a game in what was a great meat grinder of a game. I hope you guys enjoyed this on YouTube. If you did, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Take care and see you next time.